I'm with Mulka Cohen from Hertfordshire Friends of Israel. Now, Mulka, what is Hertfordshire Friends of Israel?
Good morning, Paul, and thank you so much for inviting me on your show. I'm very happy to be here and help dispel some myths about Israel. So, Hertfordshire Friends of Israel is a local advocacy group that supports the state of Israel, working to promote a positive image of Israel and foster understanding between local communities and Israelis. We're part of a broader network of Friends of Israel organizations across the UK, and we aim to provide educational resources, help organize events, counteract negative media portrayals or misinformation about Israel. And our activities often include organizing community events, hosting talks or presentations by experts on Israel related topics, lobbying local politicians, and generally engaging in public outreach to build support for Israel in Hertfordshire. And the group also, we frequently work with other like-minded organizations that support Israel and Jewish causes in the UK.
When were you started and what sort of people do you have in your group?
It's quite an interesting story. So I started the group myself back in 2014 because I had done about 2 or 3 years of advocating for Israel in a personal capacity on my social media channels. And the amount of hate and vitriol that I received personally through my social media messaging and directly on my page was just too much to bear. And I was putting the family in danger. I felt I had two teenage children, young teenagers at the time. And I just felt that I was putting my head way above the parapet and it wasn't fair on them. And so I cloaked myself in an anonymous group. I was, really, I could have just dropped everything then, my advocacy for Israel work. But I decided this would be a good way to become anonymous. And the funny thing is, the minute I started the page, I got a call from somebody at the Israeli embassy in London. And they wanted to know who I was, what I was about, if I said what I did on the tin. And I got invited to Kensington to the embassy to meet the ambassador. It was actually Ron Prosser at the time, but he was unavailable. So I got to meet with the deputy ambassador, a wonderful diplomat and politician called Eitan Naya. And he had a big map in his office, like a 3D map of Great Britain. And he gave me a pushpin and said, Hertfordshire doesn't have a Friends of Israel, but it now does. Please do us the honour of putting in a pushpin. And when I looked at the map, there was already Glasgow Friends of Israel, West Midlands Friends of Israel, Wales Friends of Israel, Liverpool Friends of Israel, and obviously Sussex Friends of Israel, who I take my lead from and who mentored me through the early stages, the development of the group. And I put the pushpin in and then was committed. And that was 2014. But it also coincided with the rise of Corbynism. So when Jeremy Corbyn became leader of the Labour Party and started his shenanigans, that made me more determined to counteract all the misinformation that was coming out of his office.
Is there a lot of media disinformation?
Yes, it's overwhelming actually, and laughable and risible. There's so much of it. It's so hard. I always liken it to a game of whack-a-mole. I don't know if you know, remember the game of whack-a-mole. You take a
Mm.
little hammer and you push down the ball or the gopher or the whatever it is that's coming up out of the hole. And as you push one down and get rid of him, another one comes up. It's never ending. But, the fight to protect Jews in this country and worldwide is more important than trying to walk away from helping with strengthening advocacy for Israel. So it just spurs me on. The more hate I get, the more Jewish I become, is what I say.
Now, you say you had hate in the past. Are you getting more hate now because of what's happening here in the Holy Land?
I've blocked so many haters on the social media channels for Hot Friends of Israel. It's been reduced, but it does filter through. They can't find me. They don't know who I am, so I don't feel threatened in any way. But generally, the word on the street is, so to speak, or the feeling, especially in the area that I live in the largest growing Jewish community in Europe. one in 10 houses has a mezuzah on it. A mezuzah is the Ten Commandments encased in a box that goes on every Jewish front door. People are taking down their mezuzahs. People are taking off their Magan Davids, which is the amulet that people wear with the Star of David on. They are fearful. People are fleeing the country. I can't tell you how many friends and family have moved to Israel in the past 5 to 10 years, leaving in their droves. The numbers here are very small of Jewish people. I don't know if people realize, but the estimates are anywhere between 240 and 280, maybe 290,000 Jews who profess to be Jews, put their hands up to be Jewish, and it can only get worse. We've got a lot of French Jews here that have escaped Paris. So the numbers were slightly bolstered in the last few years. But yes, people are very fearful. And, in the early days, I had other Jewish people say, pipe down, keep your head down, don't be so vocal. Nothing's wrong, everything will be okay. And all I kept hearing was Jews speaking to other Jews in Berlin in 1933 to 1939. And that was in the forefront of my mind, and nothing would deter me because I knew the truth. So I kept on. But yes, if you really want to know, Jews are very fearful. And I say that because I was head of the welfare council of my local synagogue that I belonged to for 17 years. I have been doing this advocacy work for 10 years, and I am in touch with thousands of Jewish people up and down the country who contact me to give me information, update me on what's going on in their local communities. I go to events. I'm attached to the embassy in a pro-advocacy way, no other way, no political way. And yeah, I go to lots of Jewish events. Obviously, now I'm involved in a lot of vigils for the hostages and to pray for the IDF, brave warriors, and fighting on 7 fronts. I say they're fighting the world's war. So I'm involved in many different Jewish causes, Jewish organizations. So I think I speak from a place of being informed when I say that Jews are fearful. Yes.
Quite ironic, really, isn't it, that Jews are being treated with hate in the UK, and yet if they leave the UK and come to Israel, they're treated with hate in Israel as well.
Yes. It's like go back to Palestine or go back to Europe. Well, which one is it?
Mm.
Yeah, I have a very good sense of humor and I'm a very positive person, but most of all, I've learned this over the years, I'm extremely resilient. And I would like to think that I'm erudite and educated because I don't go out there without informing myself about what I post and information that I share. So I went to a very religious school. I lived in Israel for many years, speak fluent Hebrew. I speak a bit of Arabic. I'm a voracious reader. I love history books. So I do come from an informed position.
Do you do advocacy work on the streets of Hertfordshire?
What we used to do was go and support other organizations in the UK. So we used to travel in caravans, I think they call them. And we started doing that back in the early days. 2015 was our first visit down to Sussex Friends of Israel. They meet every other Saturday. Of course, on Shabbat, on the Sabbath, the haters come out and they meet at the clock tower. So if any of your listeners are in Brighton who are Zionists, who want to help Sussex Friends of Israel, they do a street event every other Saturday. And you can check on their website when they're meeting next. They always need help. I started to do the events, but I haven't done an event since just before or just during COVID when we went up to Downing Street to counter a huge PSC rally in support of, well, I say in support of Hamas, but they'll say it's pro-Palestinian. And it was the PSC is the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign. They're very active in this country, along with hundreds of other pro-Palestinian advocacy groups. And I got attacked physically, violent assault, and 2 of my friends were injured. And again, my kids were quite young, and I needed to be a mum first. And I just said I will never go back out on the streets again in a counter-protest position.
Mm.
However, we still go on the pro-Israel rallies. I organise the troops, so to speak. So I'll put out information about when the next rally is, and then we meet at the local train station and we all travel up together for safety. And I also now attend as many vigils as I can for the hostages and for the hostages that have been murdered by Hamas. So we don't tend to encourage too much counter protesting or just going out on a limb by yourself because it's too dangerous these days. And we found that especially in London, the Met Police are less than cooperative when it comes to the standards of policing. We think the quality is very low, and I work directly with the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism and also UK LFI, which is the United Kingdom Lawyers for Israel. And if you go on their social media channels, you'll see just how much of a battle it is to bring the police into line and stop this two-tier policing that constantly goes on every week in London on the marches.
Have you been shocked by the marches in London?
Oh, yes. Shocked but not surprised, if that makes sense. The hate on the placards, the Nazi references, the misinformation. It's as if they're sleepwalking through life, these people. It's really, that's what makes Jews very fearful about going into London on a Saturday. And I think it's every other Saturday, maybe they organise these protest marches for Palestine, but nobody quite knows what's going on. And there could be road marches or people walking around looking for Jews to bash up. So Jews are staying out of London at the weekends, which is a real shame because, there's so much culture that Jews could be enjoying in London, the theatre, cinema, immersive events, cultural events, and they're missing out because they're too fearful. Grandparents not taking their kids to Kensington Gardens or Hyde Park for a concert or what have you. It's such a shame. I don't know when that's going to change. I guess when the marches stop. But until then, I speak to a lot of people and they just will not go into London on a Saturday. Not all Jews are religious, so they would travel on a Saturday and they're missing out.
Have you visited Israel since the October the 7th attacks?
Well, I haven't actually been, which is a real shame, but I booked a flight on October 7th, 2023, on the day of the massacre. I booked a flight in the afternoon because I thought I need to get out there and volunteer. So I booked a flight with EasyJet. El Al's prices, that's the Israel National Airline, they are exorbitant. And so I thought, right, I'll get out there under my own steam and try and volunteer wherever I could. It didn't matter what it would be, babysitting, looking after dogs, serving soup in an IDF kitchen on base. It didn't really matter. But of course, my flight was cancelled. And then I rebooked for November, it was cancelled. I rebooked for January, it was cancelled. I rebooked for March, it was cancelled. So 5 times my flight has been cancelled. And of course, now I have the flight, but EasyJet have not. They resumed for a little while, but I couldn't go at that time. And now the only airline that flies is El Al. And I think it's something like £1,600, £1,800 round trip in economy. And I paid £230 for my EasyJet flight. So I've got the flight. They've stopped the flights again because you've seen on the news, I'm sure, how many rockets have been fired into Israel since the anniversary date, October 7th of this year. I think it's something like 400 or 500 rockets now, maybe more. And it's not safe. And my mother and my sister and my children have asked me not to go at this time, and I'm respecting their opinion. So I'm holding off at the moment, but I'm itching to get out there. I can't tell you how much. I dream about it every day. I was last in Israel, and used to go very frequently. Even during COVID, I went. The last time I went was November 2022, and I had the most fantastic time there. I've got a lot of family and friends there, and I had reunions all over the place, and I love Israel. And speaking the language and working with a lot of Israeli groups over there also, it's a pleasure. It feels like I'm going home.
You do something special for October the 7th this year in memorial for the people that were killed?
Yes, I attended a local synagogue event that was very poignant. We had some fantastic speakers, survivors from the Nova Music Festival. We had some beautiful liturgy that was organized with some very soulful tunes with fantastic cantors and a choir. It was very somber, but very poignant and very necessary. But yes, I did go to that. And then every Friday morning in my hometown, we have a vigil. I attended the vigil on Sunday. It couldn't be on Friday because we're celebrating the festival of Sukkot. So we couldn't get together because it was a high holy day and we weren't allowed to use speakers and microphones. So we got together on Sunday. It was our 52nd vigil in a row in my hometown in the main square. And I go there frequently. I can't because of work. I work full time as well. I've got a proper job, a paid for job, so I can't go every Friday morning, but I try to. And if anybody who's local in Hertfordshire wants to attend the vigil, everybody is welcome. Christians, Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, whatever you are, you're welcome to come and attend our regular vigil. We encourage everybody to come.
That's been very powerful hearing survivor stories from the Nova Festival.
Yes, it's been heartbreaking when you see the number of young people that were just gunned down just because they wanted to dance, just because they wanted to live. The ages 20, 21, 22, 23. I think the average age is 21. Their lives cut short in the most tragic way. I think most people know it's the largest loss of life in one day since the Holocaust. So listening to the survivors is something that you just can't wrap your head around. It's heartbreaking. I've been traumatized and heartbroken ever since I woke up to the news on October 7th at about 8 o'clock in the morning our time. I'll never feel the same again.
Christians standing with you with Israel at this time, and is there a good relationship between the Jewish Christian relations?
I wish it was better. I wish it
Mm.
was more strengthened. I would dearly love the opportunity to bring us both even closer together. I do feel that some of the Christian churches are quite pro-Palestinian and they negate the needs and the requirements of making holy alliances between the two religions. So I think it used to be stronger. I think it's waning a little bit. I really want to be proven incorrect, Paul, on that front. But yeah, it's a bit disheartening that we haven't had more support from the churches.
What is your prayer, your hope for Israel at this time?
Well, first and foremost is to release the hostages. There are 102 hostages that are still being held in Gaza. We don't know if they're dead or alive. The only way forward would be to release the hostages today. And then I would like to see the demise of Hamas. And I would like to see the conflict over, both in Gaza and the West Bank and in the northern part of Israel. I would like to see Gaza rebuilt with new leadership, with security for both Palestinians and Israelis. And I'd like time to heal from what has been a very traumatic year.
Facebook page for people who'd like to know more about the work that you do and perhaps join you in some of these things?
Yes, please do direct yourselves right now to Facebook. You could just put in the search field Hertfordshire Friends of Israel. There is only one Hertfordshire Friends of Israel. And come and join us. We have almost 11,000 followers on Facebook and on Twitter, now known as X. We're also Hertfordshire Friends of Israel. We have about 8,500 followers. So we could do with more numbers and more support. Thank you very much, Paul, for allowing me to speak today on your radio stations. I very much welcome the opportunity to have people reach out to me if they want to support Israel or Jews in the UK.
Mulka, thank you very much for sharing today.
You're welcome. Thank you.